Good morning. Welcome back to another day in Mae Sot, Thailand. It is Saturday, April 11th, and I think that makes it day 16 of the state of emergency here in Thailand. The other day I kind of enjoyed sitting in my nice chair in this hotel room, having a cup of coffee and talking into the camera, so I thought I would do that again. Right now, of course, it's not such a great idea to be out walking around on the streets with my camera, so here I am inside my hotel room. Some quick background for those who may not know, but Mae Sot is a town in the Tak province in Thailand. It's right on the border with Myanmar, and it's a very popular border crossing for local people and for foreigners, that are traveling around Thailand and Myanmar. Just a few kilometers from here is a friendship bridge that crosses over into Mayawadi in Myanmar. And that's a very convenient way for people to get from Thailand into Myanmar. And they have an immigration office here in Mae Sot. So it's not a bad place to be stranded if you have to be stranded somewhere in the world. In my previous video, I was talking quite a bit about the new immigration policy put out by the Immigration Bureau here in Thailand. And I was saying in that video that the details that came out in English struck me as just basic summaries, with not a lot of information. Pretty much all the information we got was that there was an automatic visa extension for foreigners in Thailand who are on a tourist visa or a visa exemption if their visa expires after March 26. For all those people, your visa is automatically extended up until April 30th. And I was saying in that video that I wasn't quite sure how that policy was going to work and who it's going to benefit, because in my case, my visa expires on April 25th anyway. So extending me automatically to April 30th gets me 5 extra days. And that doesn't do me a lot of good. So I was a little bit confused about this policy, and I was waiting for more information to come out. I assumed there would be a full translation of the whole document into English, and then there would be a lot more details in there. Well, this morning I woke up and I fired up my computer, got online, and I found a full English translation of the document that was released by the government and that was signed by the Prime Minister. And I read the entire English translation, and there was no extra information in it at all. It was exactly the same as the summaries that I found. So that's it. It was basically exactly what I said earlier about extending to April 30th. That's all this document says. So there's really nothing else to report. And as far as I'm concerned, as far as my situation is concerned, I also got an email from the Canadian Embassy about this. They didn't give any more details about the policy, but they did say that as far as they're aware, because of this new policy, you no longer need a letter of support from your embassy. Because if I wanted to go to the immigration office and apply for my own 30-day extension, I need a letter from the embassy as part of my application package. At least that's what I read, and that's what I've been told. And previous to this, the embassy contacted me and said, okay, if you need one of these letters, here's how you contact us to get it. And I was waiting until it got closer to April 25th to apply for this letter. But now I got an email from the Canadian Embassy saying, well, we don't think you need those letters anymore because of this policy. They didn't say you can't get one, but they're saying, you probably don't need one. So I'm imagine if I do apply, ask them to give me one of these letters, there's going to be some pushback now saying, you don't need one because of this new policy. And then I'll have to, state my case saying, but, my visa expires on April 25th. So this new extension, the automatic only gets me 5 more days, and this could lead to this, So I may end up in an email chain with the embassy at some point. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Today is rent day here at the hotel in Mae Sot. So I have to, at some point this morning, go down, pay for another week. And I had a very nice encounter yesterday here because I was down in the lobby of this hotel. It's a very quiet place. We're not seeing a lot of people. I haven't seen anyone lately staying in this hotel other than me. And I was a little bit worried about that, you know, wondering, are they going to keep the hotel open? But while I was down there, I ran into a man who I think is either the owner, part owner, or the manager of this hotel. Normally, I'm only dealing with these kind of young men that work the front desk and they do a lot of yard work and stuff like that. You never see anyone official here. But I ran into this man, and I'd met him before a long time ago. And we had a very friendly chat. You know, he asked about me, how I'm doing, what are my plans, and I said, well, my plan was to go to either Myanmar or Malaysia, but I can't go in either direction. And he's like, yeah, border closings, you know, I understand. And then he rushed to reassure me. He said, you know, we're very happy to have you here. We're, you know, stay as long as you like. This is your home now. Just treat it like your home. If you need anything, you know, just let me know. So that was a very nice, it was a nice encounter. It was good to meet him. I should have gotten his phone number or a name card or something, you know, in case immigration comes calling or something like that. But I didn't think about that until later. But hopefully, if I do need to get in touch with him, one of the young men that work here, they can put me in touch with him. Because as I said, he isn't here normally. He's never in the hotel. So running into him was a stroke of good luck for me. Speaking of accommodation, that continues to be a concern for all kinds of stranded foreigners everywhere. I've been following a couple YouTube vloggers named Jumping Places, and they were staying in a really nice resort hotel on El Nido in the Philippines. And in their last video, it was all about them moving out of the resort and then moving into a little house, you know, a tiny little house, you know, bedroom, kitchenette, bathroom, and a nice little lawn out front with some furniture, nice little porch. So it's a really nice little place. I mean, I would be happy as can be, you know, if I were staying in a place like that. They're like my favorite kinds of places. But they did lose the pool at the resort, and they lost, you know, the beautiful view of the ocean and the islands around El Nido. But what they did gain, and the main reason they did this, was saving a bit of money, mainly because at the resort, they were eating most of their meals in the restaurant, and they were getting very good meals there, which is really quite lucky. But as anyone knows, if you're going to eat 2 or 3 times a day in a resort restaurant, you know, the cost is going to add up quite quickly. So even if the room rate was reasonable, they were spending, I think, I'm just guessing, they didn't say this, but I'm guessing that they were spending a lot of money on food. And now that they've moved into their tiny little home, they said they were paying $20 a night for this new home for the 2 of them. And they had a kitchen, and then they went on a supply run and got a whole bunch of food and brought it back. There's only like a little store near them. In order to get like fresh fruit and vegetables, they have to go maybe a 45-minute walk away, you know, to get there. I was very happy that they talked a lot about the details of this place. It drives me crazy. I'm such a detail person. When someone shows something in a video, I want to know all the background information. So my first question is, you know, how much does it cost? And they told us, you know, $20 a night. And I was so curious, like, how did they get this place? How do you just stumble across this nice little house on El Nido? And it turns out they booked it through Airbnb. You know, so yeah, it was quite simple for them to do. You know, they had a monthly rate for this house, and they booked it for a month. And interestingly enough, when they moved in, they found on a table inside their little house the passes they would need in order to leave the house and for one of them to go to a store, you know, and go shopping, because in the lockdown everybody needs a pass. And as part of the deal, renting the house through Airbnb from these people, they provided them with one of the necessary passes. So that was that was very nice. And they're people after my own heart, because their very first meal that they cooked in their new home was spaghetti. So we're spaghetti buddies. Their travel partners, the other Canadian vloggers, they call their channel Delightful Travelers. They're still in the resort for now, and they did say that a lot of people were asking them how much it cost to stay there, like were they getting a break from the owners, and I think they said they're getting a large discount. They were paying 25% of the regular, high season rate for the room that they're staying in. So that's a pretty good deal. Here in my room, I have not tried to negotiate for a discount or anything else. It's just it's a reasonable rate for this room, more than reasonable, I think. So I didn't try to say, hey, can you give me a discount because of the situation. After hearing about jumping places and Airbnb, just for fun, I checked for Mae Sot. I thought, who knows? Maybe there's a lovely little house here in Mae Sot on Airbnb. So I did look, but I didn't find anything at all. I mean, the only places listed were like month-long rates for other hotels, other resorts in the Mae Sot area. And all of them, as far as I could tell, were like kind of placed far away from the center of town, and they were double, triple, quadruple what I'm paying here. So there was there were no attractive options on Airbnb for me. But as I said, I'm happy as can be here at this hotel. I'm sure everyone around the world is monitoring the COVID-19 numbers for their country and for various countries. And I have to say that the numbers here in Thailand, to me, look very encouraging. I would even go so far as to say positive. You wouldn't know that from the media coverage. I mean, everything I read is still like gloom and doom and different provinces and cities and imposing more and more and more restrictions. So you do get this sense of panic and a pandemic and a crisis. But I mean, if you're looking for encouragement, you can look at the numbers. For example, yesterday, the total new cases in Thailand that were reported, I think there were 50 new cases, and there was one person who passed away. And of course, if you're talking about people passing away, the best number is 0. You'll always want 0 people to die. But to say in this, in this condition, in this situation, 1 person is quite good. We've seen the numbers from the United States. Right now, they're kind of hitting a peak with over 2,000 per day, with many, many thousands of new cases every day. Even in countries around Western Europe, you're still looking at numbers edging up into the 500, 600, 700 per day, nudging close to 1,000 per day. Even Canada, my country, I think yesterday there were 60 new cases, 60 new deaths from COVID-19. And that number strikes me as quite high for Canada. But here in Thailand, as I said, the numbers are fairly encouraging, and the daily rates for new infections has been dropping fairly steadily. From a couple of weeks ago, it's just been on a steady decline. So the measures seem to have taken effect. And then when you look at the daily mortality rate, the numbers you see are 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 4, I think was the maximum in one day, then 2, then 1. Those are the numbers you're looking at. And unlike in some countries, like I've seen chatter online that in the United States, there was some frustration with the media because they would announce so many people, passed away from the virus, but they're not really giving details about who these people were, their ages, things like that. But here in Thailand, the information seems to be quite public. So yesterday, I believe the one death was a 43-year-old Thai woman, and that might cause a little bit of concern, you know, when you consider she was quite young. But in the stories about her, she did have pre-existing conditions. I read that she had an advanced case of lupus, and that led to complications and led to problems for her. And on the previous day, I believe there were 3 deaths, and all of them were in their mid-70s, I believe. You know, 74-year-old man from France, I think, 73-year-old man from Thailand, and someone else, I believe, also in their 70s. So, as I said, you know, it feels weird to talk about people, you know, passing away and thinking that 3 is an acceptable number. 0 is always the acceptable number. But as I said, you know, when you just look at the numbers, you know, fairly positive and encouraging here in Thailand. And not just in Thailand, in Malaysia. I believe yesterday there was 1 death in Malaysia that was recorded. And other news out of Malaysia, they did extend their movement control order. So their lockdown nationwide was extended until the end of April, which I think everyone was kind of expecting. They started off with a 2-week lockdown, then they added 2 more weeks to take us to the middle of April, and now they've added 2 more weeks to get the country to the end of April. And I think everyone was assuming, you know, that would happen anyway. I think it would have been a surprise if they lifted the movement control order, like now, you know, in the middle of April. An interesting thing here in Thailand was, even though the new infection rates have been dropping and dropping, there was one day recently where there was a spike all the way up to 111 new cases in one day. And that was because a plane landed from Indonesia, and it was carrying 76 Thai citizens. They were returning from some kind of an Islamic conference in Indonesia, and out of these 76 returning Thai citizens, I think 44 of them ended up testing positive for the virus, and they all had to be quarantined. So, yeah, that made, I think, the authorities here in Thailand even more nervous about people from other countries, whether foreigners or Thai citizens, flying into Thailand. So they still have the flight ban going on up until April 18th, and I don't know whether that will be extended. The articles I read said that there were at least 15,000 Thai citizens stranded in countries all around the world, and a lot of them have signed up for repatriation flights, you know, because they want to come back to Thailand. But the government here is encouraging them to stay put, you know, stay where you are for now. Like, I don't even know if they could fly in. I don't know if they have repatriation flights flying right now. I don't think they do. I think even those are covered underneath the flight ban that's going on right now. And there are quite a few small, interesting stories going on around Thailand. You know, I was just reading some of the news this morning, and there was a story about 3 young Russians, you know, kind of Russian backpackers, I guess. They were on, I think, the island of Phuket, and they went to the airport. You know, they had a flight home to Russia, if I remember the details right, and their flight was canceled, and now they were stuck. You know, they'd spent all their money on this flight, and they didn't really have any money, much money left over. And as they were walking back from the airport, some monks or people at a temple invited them to stay. So they were allowed to stay at that temple. I think they found a place for them to sleep. Might have been in tents, you know, with mattresses and everything like that. But the temple, you know, offered to take care of them, which was really nice. And last I heard, since their story went viral, you know, it was all over the news, a local resort on Phuket stepped up and offered them a room at their hotel, you know, at their resort, and it may even be free of charge at a very reduced rate, and gave them a place to stay. Another big story here is Songkran. Songkran. I really don't know how to pronounce Thai words, but Songkran is the biggest festival of the year here in Thailand. It is the start of the Thai New Year. It has a lot of elements in it. You know, it's a day of atonement. You atone for your misdeeds of the past year. It's a time for children to pay respect to their elders. But it's also a huge party. Lots of drinking goes on, a lot of dancing, a lot of music. And of course, it is a water festival. I think everyone has seen those pictures or those videos that everywhere you go during Songkran, people are attacking. It's a giant water fight. The whole country turns into a huge water fight. It began with the tradition of water being a purifying element, and you pour water over the Buddha image as kind of a ceremony to atone and wash away your sins or your misdeeds. And over time, that just turned into a giant water fight, hoses on the street and giant squirt guns and buckets of water. And it's a giant party that goes on across the whole country. Anyway, that has been canceled, as far as I know. Not only canceled, a lot of the activities normally associated with this festival have been banned or outlawed. So they do not want to see anybody gathered out on the street in front of their house, you know, throwing water on people. They're encouraging children not to do the, you know, paying respects to their elders, because their elders would be, you know, grandparents, elderly people, and they don't want to risk any kind of, you know, infection from people getting together. Yeah, Songkran is also a kind of like a Thanksgiving where families get together. You know, people would normally travel from where they are to their hometown, spend time with their family. And of course, none of that can happen now in the current situation. So that's kind of a big story here. And a quick media roundup to end this video. Today's chair chat, or whatever you want to call it. I came across this amazing, or I found fascinating video on YouTube from Nucleus Medical Media. And it is a video animation of the virus. And of course, the technical name for the virus is SARS-CoV-2. I mean, that's the actual specific name of this coronavirus. Because of course, coronavirus is a class of viruses. And this one in particular is SARS-CoV-2. So this video animation shows exactly how this virus works inside the human body. And I'd read a bunch of articles about this and seen some other videos about it. I'm sure some of you have as well, if you have a kind of a technical mind and want to learn about these things. You know, I'm sure everybody is Googling, you know, what's the difference between a virus and a bacteria, and what does the Ebola virus look like compared to this coronavirus. We're all doing that, I'm sure. But this video, to me, was quite special because of the video animation. It was highly detailed and very, very specific, showing the entire structure of this virus, and is much more complex in its biology than I thought it was, and the way it interacts with the human body and the human cells, and exactly the mechanism by which it causes health problems for humans, you know, in the throat and in the lungs. I mean, I knew a lot of this from other things I'd read, but this video showed it in a level of clear detail that I hadn't seen anywhere else before. So if you're interested in biology and the medical side of this, yeah, I recommend checking that video out. Link in the description, of course. And one last kind of media technology note. This is kind of funny. With everything going on, I think what's happening for everyone, you know, people are staying home around the world, have a lot of time on their hands, and they're reaching out to people that they haven't perhaps contacted for a long time, you know, just to see whether they're okay, you know, what's going on. People are touching base. And it's been happening with me as well. A good friend of mine in Canada contacted me, you know, hadn't heard from him for quite a long time. We just, you know, we go long periods without being in touch, and then suddenly we're in touch again, and then we're not in touch anymore. So I got this message from him, and we're touching base, and he says, hey, you know, maybe we should get on Zoom. And I was looking at that message, and I was like, what the heck is a Zoom? I'd never heard of Zoom. I had no idea what it was. He wants me to get on a Zoom? What's a Zoom? Is that a plane? Is that a rocket? Do I Zoom somewhere? But after I got that message from him about let's get on Zoom, suddenly I was hearing about Zoom everywhere. All these podcasts where they used to go into a studio and record together, they're all doing it from home, and they're somehow connecting on Zoom. Every newspaper article I read is about Zoom. Oh, I'm going to get on Zoom with my friends. I'm going to get on Zoom with my family. So I went from never in my life hearing about Zoom, and suddenly Zoom is everywhere. So I think that is going to be my my project for today, is to look into Zoom, you know, get it on my phone, get it on my laptop. Well, thank you for all the comments on my last one or two videos. I've sort of been preoccupied last couple of days, so I've read all the comments, I just haven't responded to a lot of people yet. That's going to be my project for today. See if anyone has asked me some questions, you know, that I can respond to. But I do remember one comment. Someone made a comment about my hair. You know, it's like, oh, your hair is getting long, you know. And this was something that I was thinking about, because I had this feeling that my hair was getting a bit long, it was getting a bit unruly. But in the COVID-19 era, I think that's going to happen to all of us, right? I know of 2 hair cutting places here in Mae Sot. There's like a fancy salon quite near my hotel, and there was more, it's kind of more for women, you know, fancy hairstyles. And then there was more of a men's simple hair cutting place around the corner, and I've been to that one and I've gotten my hair cut there. But of course, they're both closed, right? I mean, nobody can get a haircut either, right? It's one of the many things we can't do anymore. So perhaps you will see a lot of people with longer and longer unkempt hairstyles. Another side effect of the coronavirus. Okay, I think that is it for this morning. To be honest, I could babble for another hour. With everything going on in the world today, you know, information getting into your brain, you know, you're just thinking about so many different things, so I could talk and talk and talk. But I think that's my my news roundup for this morning. Going to perhaps have another cup of coffee and start my day. So have a good day wherever you are, wherever you're stranded, if you're at home, whatever's going on in your life. And I will see you in the next video. Hopefully not to bore you with all my details, but I do have another angle on this, which just makes me shake my head. You know, it's one of these things that only ever seems to happen to me. The issue I'm facing is that I only have one full empty page left in my passport. I still have like half a page on a, you know, that's empty previously, but in terms of one full page, I only have one page left. And my original, you know, master plan before all this happened was to go into Myanmar, and then to go into Myanmar, you get a tiny little visa stamp, no problem. And then after that, I would fly to Malaysia, and I had tons of room on my passport. And when I got to Malaysia, I was going to go to the Canadian consulate there, apply for a new passport, and we'd be good to go. But then, of course, all of this happened, and I'm now getting all these other stamps in my passport because I already went to immigration and got an extension already. And now I'm staring down the barrel of my passport being completely full, which means I would be unable to go anywhere. And according to the emails I'm getting from the Canadian Embassy, they've shut down all non-essential services. They don't specify what those are, but I'm pretty sure that issuing a new passport is a non-essential service. So here in Thailand, I can't even get a new passport even if I wanted to. And of course, even if it were possible, I'd have to go to Bangkok to do it. And I found out, I didn't even know this, I found out this morning as well, that of all the provinces in Thailand, Tak is one of the provinces with a travel restriction. I don't know exactly what the details are, but this restriction runs from April 2nd to April 16th. So I don't think you're even allowed to leave the province. So even if I could find a bus to take me to Bangkok, which I don't think I could, I don't think I could leave the province. So I couldn't even go to Bangkok to go to the embassy in person to apply for a new passport. And of course, getting a new passport is a pretty involved process. It's not a simple thing to happen. So that's kind of where I am. And that means for me, the automatic visa extension works in my favor because there's no need to go to immigration, there's no stamping involved, and they're not going to be filling up my final page with giant stamps, you know. This is another pet peeve of mine in my life, you know, it affects me quite a bit. In recent years, embassies have gotten crazy with their stamps. You know, you used to have this little rubber stamp with a date on it, and you know, you could put 6, 7, 8 of them on a page, and, you know, and then you move on and you're good to go. But now, if you go to an embassy to apply for a visa, it's quite often now a sticker that fills an entire page. So if you get a visa for Myanmar and you go to the embassy to get it, they will put a sticker in your passport that fills the whole page. And then when you get to immigration at the airport, they'll turn to a new page and then put a stamp in that as well. If you go to Indonesia, same thing, full page sticker. Laos is a full page sticker. So even if you have a full page left in your passport, you know, chances are you go to one country, that whole page is taken up, you know.